Chapter 39-21. That peerless face was fully reflected in Yiqing Luo's pupils. The man's eyes were like a silver needle, piercing into her heart. The light in her charming eyes became softer. Her slender fingers gently traced the contours of the man's face. From his eyebrows to his eyes to his nose, and finally, her fingertips landed on his rosy lips. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes rose slightly, hooking into a coquettish arc. Her pair of fox-like eyes stared at his thin lips without blinking. Following that, the corners of her lips curled up frivolously. Her voice also became soft and charming. Since you've flirted with someone, you should take responsibility till the end. The words fell. She had already leaned forward and covered the man's lips. The man's initiative and her initiative were totally different concepts. When the young lady's sweet breath approached, her gentle words were already a blatant hint. The man's eyes instantly turned pitch black. He held the young lady tightly and pressed her into his arms, turning from guest to host. From his throat, a low and sinister threat came out. You asked for it. When the time comes, don't beg for mercy. That mellow voice, because of the young lady's initiative, had been tainted with a thin layer of hoarseness. Lingering and charming, the warmth rose. Gulp. Just at this moment, suddenly a sound that spoiled the mood rang in the room. The two of them, who were stuck close to each other, immediately froze. Gulp gulp. Following that sound rang again. Dmo Xian half propped up his body, slightly glanced sideways. His line of sight fell on the young lady's flat abdomen. The young lady's robe was in a mess, revealing her fair skin. When Dmo Xian's line of sight swept over, Yiqing Luo let out an ah, then pushed away the man who was half propped up, lifted the quilt and covered her head. Vaguely, she could still hear the man's low chuckle. Yiqing Luo clutched the quilt. She couldn't wait to bang her head into the quilt. So shameful. She took the initiative to seduce Dmo Xian. She didn't expect her stomach to be so disappointing. At this juncture, it was actually so hungry that it was growling. Did it need to be so embarrassing? Mushroom. Blue skinny. Yiqing Luo silently cursed her stomach 100 times in her heart. Suddenly she felt a broad palm, covering her quilt. Her body stiffened. The man's mellow and smiling voice floated down from above. It's my fault. I forgot that you've been unconscious for 2 days. You must be hungry. Following the man's words, she could feel the man slowly bending down to the side of the blanket and talking to her at a close distance. Yiqing Luo's cheeks turned even redder. She clutched the quilt and remained motionless. Good girl, let's go eat first. Dmo Xian coaxed. Under Dmo Xian's half coaxing and half dragging, Yiqing Luo slowly lifted up a corner of the blanket, revealing a guilty little face. Then you. Are you really all right? Previously, he had endured it. But she insisted on taking the initiative. This was what it meant by flirting and not wanting to take responsibility. Dmo Xian lifted the blanket and carried her up from the bed. As the girl screamed in surprise, she hooked her arms around his neck. He chuckled and whispered into her ear, "It doesn't matter. After you're full, it'll be my turn to feed me." Yiqing Luo, she really shouldn't feel guilty. Of course, what Dmo Xian said about being fed by the girl after he was full, was finally left unsettled. Because after Yiqing Luo had freshened up and followed Dmo Xian out for a meal. Chapter 39-22. After finding out that the reason why Yiqing Luo was unconscious was because of that fellow Zhu Wu Xian, he immediately exploded. Old Lai, in particular, slammed the table, his beard widened. What? That kid actually dared to drug you? You just wait, I'll bring the Hell Palace's people right now and screw up his red clear pavilion. With that, Lao Lai rolled up his sleeves and walked toward the door. He took a few steps. Sensing that something was amiss, Zhang Xian halted his footsteps once more and turned to look at the group of people staring at him. Even as he rolled up his sleeves, he asked, "Aren't you all going to stop me?" Everyone shook their heads in unison. Even the person involved, Yiqing Luo, had an incomparable tacit understanding as she shook her head, not stopping, not stopping. How can we stop Old Lie's decision? Go on, I have high hopes for you. Lao Lai. Both of them stared at each other for a few seconds. Old Lie slowly put down his sleeves and coughed softly. Forget it. Looking at you, you don't seem to want to take revenge on that brat. I'm too lazy to move my old bones. As he spoke, he slowly moved back to his seat. Zhou Mo clicked his tongue and lazily lifted his eyelids. He cast a sidelong glance at Old Lie and sneered. This young master has heard that this Hell Palace is a madhouse, a gathering place for lunatics. Why, would lunatics also be afraid of Zhu Wuxin? Lao Lai's eyes widened. I'm scared. What's there to be afraid of? I didn't want to put Madame D in a difficult position. Oh. Zhou Mo raised his eyebrows and dragged out the last syllable. Old Lie's face was flushed red with anger as he pressed the table and stood up, pointing at Yiqing Luo. Red Clearness Pavilion, Red Clearness Pavilion. Just by hearing this name, you can tell that this Red Clearness Pavilion was built for Madame D. One must know that this Red Clear Pavilion was a mysterious force that had been famous in the upper realm since a few years ago. Several years ago. A few years ago, Zhu Wuxin had chosen this name for Lady D. Didn't this mean that Lady D had a good relationship with Zhu Wuxin? If I go to the Red Clear Pavilion and cause trouble for Madame D, I'll feel so wronged. Old Lie rattled off a string of words. There was no pause at all. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere in the hall became heavy. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop on the ground. The crowd sighed helplessly, as they silently mourned for him as they shook their heads. Whether Qing Luo will find trouble with you, we don't know, but what we know is, now, you're in deep trouble. Lao Lai suddenly felt a chill on his back as he felt an inexplicable chill. His neck twisted stiffly. She then met with Dmo Xian's icy cold eyes. Lao Lai's mouth trembled, and he immediately gave in. Yiqing Luo naturally felt the low pressure from the man beside her. She rolled her eyes at Old Lie and stretched out her little hand to hold Dmo Xian's large palm as she said, "Don't listen to his nonsense. I only found out that Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master is Zhu Wu Xian during the auction." She paused slightly and continued, "As for why he named it Red Clearness Pavilion, I'm not too sure, but..." Her brows sunk slightly as her gaze turned slightly gloomy. "This time round, he still chose to stand on the opposite side of me, and made use of my trust towards him, attempting to repeat the same trick on me. His trust in me has already turned to zero." Trusting someone was very difficult. Bit by bit, slowly accumulating trust. There was a possibility that because of one matter, it would completely crumble. Chapter 39-23. Lil Luo, Dmo Xian looked at the young lady's sunken expression. Although her head was lowered and her fine black hair covered her expression. But Dmo Xian could clearly feel that Yiqing Luo's current mood was very gloomy. His long arms scooped and brought the young lady into his arms. Perhaps his obsession with you is too deep and he was bewitched by secluded palace. Yiqing Luo laid in Dmo Xian's arms openly, feeling the warmth from his body, soothing the gloomy mood in her heart. She moved her little head in his arms. Her chin rested on his chest. She raised her head slightly and suddenly laughed. "He's your love rival, why are you still helping him to speak up?" According to Dmo Xian's character, she felt repelled towards Zhu Wu Xian. He should be happier than anyone else. But he actually helped Zhu Wu Xian to speak up. "TSK, did the sun rise from the west today?" Dmo Xian's slender fingers pinched her nose as he gently pinched it. Following that, he bent over slightly. That handsome face came close to Yiqing Luo's face. The surrounding crowd. Why did it feel like they were being neglected? But luckily, the two of them who were extremely intimate still had some conscience. They didn't really engage in lovey-dovey activities in front of everyone. Dmo Xian's face stopped at a distance of about a fist away from Yiqing Luo. His crimson thin lips curled up slightly as he revealed a devilish smile. His slender fingers slowly slid from her nose to the area between her brows as he gently rubbed it. I just don't want to see you frowning here, showing a worried look. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly soared. A faint smile unknowingly appeared in her eyes. Her arms hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck as she smiled like a flower. Seeing this face of yours has healed my body and mind. The two of them smiled at each other as their eyes were filled with tenderness and sweetness. The surrounding crowd. Alright, although the two of them weren't really lovey-dovey. But this feeling, as compared to lovey-dovey, was even more stimulating. But Yiqing Luo's mood, indeed, rose by a lot. In the main hall, everyone was bustling. However, in a dark corner not far away, there seemed to be a layer of frost covering it. Some of the servants of the Qiao mansion who passed by felt an inexplicable shiver. In the dark, a red figure was faintly discernible. The man's face was as cold as ice, without the slightest emotion. Especially those eyes that were like stagnant water. It was as if he would freeze to death under his ice with just a glance. He wasn't close to the hall, but he wasn't far either. He could clearly hear all the voices in the hall. In his mind, the girl's clear voice kept repeating over and over again, his trust in me has been reduced to zero. Trust, did she no longer trust him? He just wanted to keep her by his side. He just didn't want her to treat him so coldly again. Obviously, she belonged to him, didn't she? Did he really do something wrong? Zhu Wuxin's hands that were hanging by his side slowly clenched. Blue veins popped out of his fist. It was as if he was suppressing some kind of emotion in his heart. Suddenly, his hand opened up as his vision swiftly turned towards a certain direction behind him. His eyes, which were like still water, turned into a sharp blade as it shot out. Young Patriarch Chu, don't, it's me. Chapter 39-24. Zhu Wuxin's expression didn't change at all when he saw who it was. That slender and soft figure leaned against Zhu Wuxian's body. Young Master Zhu, scram. The slender figure had yet to approach him. Zhu Wuxin flicked his sleeve, avoiding the woman's approach. An invisible wave of air isolated the woman a step away from him. The woman didn't get angry. Instead, she looked at him with a smile. Young Master Chu, why are you hiding here alone? Don't worry, as long as you follow the instructions of the revered Yiqing Luo. Will definitely belong to you. Zhu Wuxin's eyes flashed. The lady naturally didn't miss his reaction as she smiled delicately. You must know, even if Yiqing Luo is with the Overlord now, but they will absolutely not be able to walk to the end. Only young Patriarch Chu, who has been recognized by the Overlord, is Yiqing Luo's future husband. Zhu Wuxin's pupils suddenly constricted. He didn't even look at the woman. He moved. It disappeared into thin air. Not even a red afterimage was left behind. The woman quietly looked at the horizon in the direction that Zhu Wuxin had disappeared. The smile on his face faded, and his eyes were like those of a venomous snake, flickering with an insidious ruthlessness. He clenched his fists tightly. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo. Whether it was Di Zun or Zhu Wuxin, all of them were circling around Yiqing Luo. What was so good about her? *TCH. The atmosphere in the room was still warm. The silent Gue Wu, who had been leaning against the corner, suddenly raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. His gaze was direct. Just as he was about to look at Yiqing Luo, Yiqing Luo had already sensed his line of sight and met Ghost Marshal's gaze in puzzlement. Gue Wu slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo until he stood in front of her. Yiqing Luo was nestled in Dmo Xian's arms. Gue Wu stood up. He was also facing Dmo Xian. But Gue Wu's line of sight, from the start till the end, had remained on Yiqing Luo. It was a young and handsome face. But those eyes were full of hardships and complicated emotions that no one could see through. Yiqing Luo felt uncomfortable being stared at. She shifted her body and adjusted her position in Dmo Xian's arms as she coughed lightly. Ghost Martial Master? There were no ripples in Ghost Martial's deep and cold eyes. However, the words that came out of his mouth were like a raging storm. Your body has undergone a transformation. Huh? Dumbfounded expressions appeared on everyone's faces, as they did not understand the meaning behind Gui Wu's words. Yiqing Luo was slightly startled. She naturally knew what the change that Gui Wu was talking about was. She was surprised. Gui Wu had actually seen through this point. Gui Wu stared at Yiqing Luo for some time before he suddenly narrowed his eyes in an unfathomable manner. Looks like the 2 days you were in a coma, not only did it not affect your body, instead, it allowed your body to improve. What kind of riddle are you guys playing? Zhou Mo raised his red phoenix eyes and asked. Gui Wu looked at Zhou Mo and said indifferently, Student Yiqing Luo's body has undergone transformation. Now her bone structure has already broken away from the mortal body and can withstand even more powerful than an overlord. Transform? Leaving the mortal body? Was he talking about Yiqing Luo? Everyone's gazes shifted onto Yiqing Luo in unison. That blatant gaze made Yiqing Luo burrow into Dmo Xian's arms and even took up Dmo Xian's arm to block in front of her. Chapter 39-25. Everyone shook their heads in unison. I have never seen a beauty who has left her mortal body. Yiqing Luo. She couldn't be bothered with them as she set her sight on Gui Wu. It seemed that Gui Wu was very clear about the transformation of the bone frame. After pondering for a moment, she asked, Master Gui Wu, from what you've said, does this mean that my body can now withstand even more powerful strength? She paused slightly and continued with an example. For example, if I use the power of the divine relic? Gui Wu met Yiqing Luo's vague hopeful gaze and nodded slowly. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. Previously, she had forcefully used the power of the divine relic to raise her strength in a short period of time to tide over the crisis. The price she had to pay was the overdraft of her body. And the divine phoenix profound heart jade in her body was likely to cause a backlash. All these reasons stemmed from the fact that her body could not withstand the overload of power. Now, her body, her bone frame, had been reconstructed. All the impurities had been eliminated. Separated from the mortal body. After withstanding the power of the divine relic and even more powerful forces, her body could finally bear it. But under Yiqing Luo's bright eyes, Gui Wu suddenly said, Don't be happy too early. Even if your bone frame has been transformed, it doesn't mean that you can mess around. When she was still a mortal body, Yiqing Luo time and time again did something which made one worried. If she relied on her body to withstand the powerful forces to mess around, no matter how solid the foundation was, it would be exhausted over and over again. Yiqing Luo's spirit would not be able to bear it. I know. Yiqing Luo nodded seriously, I won't mess around. Everyone made a tisk sound. Apparently no one believed Yiqing Luo's guarantee. Dmo Xian stretched out his hand and knocked on her head. You'd better remember what you said now. Yiqing Luo felt pain as she turned her head and stared at him. Why don't you believe what I said? Dmo Xian sneered. Do you think that you believe what you said? Yiqing Luo. Alright, based on her previous behavior. She didn't believe it herself. Dmo Xian dangerously narrowed his eyes and held her chin. Why? Tacit approval? That deep voice carried an obvious threat. Yiqing Luo was forced to look him in the eye. She didn't even dare to avoid his eyes. Her long eyelashes blinked for a while, but Dmo Xian still maintained that dangerous smile. Her honey trap did not work at all. Therefore, he decisively gave in. How could there be a tacit agreement? This is a very serious expression. I will definitely remember what I'm saying now. Dmo Xian seemed to believe it as he nodded lightly. Yiqing Luo let out a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to squirm out from Dmo Xian's embrace, her waist tightened, and her delicate body was pressed into the man's arms again. Then, he lowered his magnetic voice and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "If you can't remember it, I'll use my own method to make you remember it," his last 4 words. He even deliberately lowered his voice. That magnetic, seductive, and drawn-out voice carried another kind of emotion. Yiqing Luo's face suddenly flushed red. What a shameless man. Everyone was already used to their little interactions and didn't notice Yiqing Luo's blushing face. Chapter 39-26. Yiqing Luo was stunned and hurriedly stood up from Dmo Xian's arms. Yes. Old Master Huangfu wants to bring those 3 back to the Huangfu family. She wondered how Pei Sheng and Old Master Huangfu had developed over the past 2 days. She was not worried about Pei Sheng's safety. 2 days ago, the assassins sent by Huangfu Fengyan failed to assassinate Pei Sheng, startling the old man. Even if the 3 of them wanted to make another move, they did not have the opportunity. Of course, if they made a move against Pei Sheng at this critical juncture, he was definitely digging his own grave. No matter how stupid they were, they would never do that. Moreover, that kid, Pei Sheng, had already evolved now, and he knew how to transform into a white lotus flower, to protect himself and Gu Zishi so that he could strive for the greatest benefits for himself and Gu Zishi. Therefore, a person's growth had to depend on their own efforts. If she interfered too many times, it would only make Pei Sheng more dependent on her. In the end, no one gave him any advice, and he fell into a state of confusion. As though she could see through Yiqing Luo's thoughts, Mo Yuing opened her round adorable big eyes and opened her mouth. They get along very well, and I can tell that old Master Huangfu sincerely wants to bring Pei Sheng home. Yiqing Luo nodded. Let's go take a look. Perhaps we can still make it in time to send old master off. In next to no time, the group arrived at the treasure-gathering exchange. After 2 days of repair, the houses that had been destroyed by the assassins had been temporarily repaired, so it wasn't too messy. Just as the group walked into treasure-gathering hall, a slender figure stood in the middle of the hall. That person had a tall and straight posture, a grave and stern face, and an outstanding temperament. He just stood there in silence. It could attract everyone's attention. Yiqing Luo and the rest naturally set their sights on that person first. At that moment, everyone's expression changed. Kitty Li was the most impatient. She suddenly jumped out of Zhou Mo's arms and pounced towards that person. You actually dare to appear here? Kitty will scratch you to death. Little wild cat. Zhou Mo's expression changed slightly, and he immediately chased after it. Before that person could make a move, he pulled Kitty Li into his arms. With a quick roll, he dodged the man's attack. Meanwhile, a black figure moved and quickly appeared in front of Zhou Mo. With a raise of his hand, a black light condensed. The two forces collided, creating traces of electricity. It was tight and gradually dissipated. The shockwaves in the air gradually subsided. This unforeseen event caused the atmosphere in the hall to become even more tense. The group of people stared at that person with tensed emotions. The man turned around and looked at them expressionlessly. Finally, a pair of cold eyes that were as calm as still water fell onto Yiqing Luo. Why are you guys here? Suddenly, Huangfu Zhentian walked out from the inner court with a smile on his face. The smile on his face was very sincere. His previous majesty was nowhere to be seen. As he walked out, he smiled at the expressionless man and said, "Pavilion Master Chu, I'll have to trouble you to wait for me." "It doesn't matter." The man's thin lips moved slightly as he spat out these 3 words. Huangfu Zhentian was still smiling. As he smiled, he felt that the atmosphere in the hall wasn't right. He took a look at the expressionless man beside him and looked at the tensed-up group of people who were glaring angrily. Cough. You guys should all know each other. This is Red Clear Pavilion's Pavilion Master Chu Wu Xian. This side are that fellow Pei Sheng's friends. Chapter 39-27. After the introduction, he eased the atmosphere and continued, "I heard that Miss Yi and Pavilion Master Chu are old acquaintances, so I don't think I need to introduce you any further." "No need." Zhu Wu Xian stared at Yi Qing Luo. I understand her better than anyone else. Huangfu Zhentian, why does it feel like the atmosphere is getting weirder and weirder? Yi Qing Luo and the rest looked at Zhu Wu Xian warily. He truly hadn't expected Chu Wuxin to appear at the treasure-gathering exchange. Moreover, it seemed like they were here to cause trouble. Yi Qing Luo had not expected to meet Zhu Wu Xian here. She thought that Zhu Wuxin would not dare to appear before her in the near future. What astonished Yi Qing Luo the most was, Chu Wuxin had actually changed out of his usual red clothes. Today, he was dressed in a white robe, which made him look even more cold and aloof. The unapproachable aura around him was even more obvious. To be honest, although Chu Wuxin was dressed in red, his temperament did not seem out of place. But it was obvious that he was more suited for white. This color was too compatible with him. However, Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. There was an indescribable feeling of unease in his heart. If I remember correctly, Chu Wuxin had always been dressed in red. This was because the original owner, Yi Qing Luo, had once said to let him always wear red clothes. Chu Wuxin kept this in mind. He also used his actions to show how much he valued the original owner. But now, she had actually swapped out her red dress. This represented that he had let go of Yi Qing Luo. She was not reminiscing about Zhu Wuxin's feelings for her. It was not because Zhu Wuxin had let go of this relationship and felt that it was a pity. Instead, somehow, he felt that something was wrong. Zhu Wu Xian's sudden change was really too strange. Would someone as stubborn as Chu Wuxin really give up so easily? Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips slightly as her little hand gently held the man's big palm beside her. She raised her head slightly and looked at the man. He also transmitted the uneasiness and doubts in his heart. The girl subconsciously relied on him. The man, who was not in a good mood, suddenly smiled. He held the young girl's small hand. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes were filled with a faint smile. With one hand, he pulled her into his embrace and soothed the uneasiness in the girl's heart. When the girl's breathing calmed down, Dmo Xian then slowly raised his head. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes no longer had the tenderness from earlier, as he calmly and indifferently looked at Zhu Wu Xian, Pavilion Lord Chu, long time no see. Zhu Wuxin did not respond. But his line of sight was fixed on the man's hand, which was holding the girl tightly. Dmo Xian shot a glance at his own hand which was wrapped around the young lady's body as his thin lips curled up slightly, containing some ridicule, since Pavilion Lord Chu said that you understand Lil Luo, don't tell me that you don't know that Lil Luo, doesn't want to see you at all? Zhu Wu Xian's eyes finally reacted, like ripples on the surface of water. But in the next instant, everything returned to normal. Huangfu Zhentian realized it. The two sides were not on good terms with each other. He, who was stuck between the two of them, felt a little embarrassed. Fortunately, Pei Sheng and Gu Zixi sensed that the atmosphere outside was not right and came out in time. Chapter 39-28. Zhu Wu Xian returned to Heaven Realm? In that case, Zhu Wu Xian was indeed someone from Heaven Realm? Then why did he hide in Nirvana Realm? Back then, he was pursued by others and hid in Yi Qing Luo's courtyard, creating a past with Yi Qing Luo. Later on in Nirvana Realm, he established his own force. What identity did he have? At this moment, to rush back to Heaven Realm. Was it because of her or was it a part of Secluded Palace's plan? Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as her suspicions towards Zhu Wu Xian grew. 2 days ago, he drugged her. He probably wanted to bring her back to Heaven Realm. You woke up very quickly. Zhu Wu Xian's icy cold voice interrupted Yi Qing Luo's thoughts. It also interrupted her probing gaze. That drug won't have any effect on your body. I won't do anything to hurt you. Zhu Wu Xian looked at her fixedly as he explained word by word, I came to treasure gathering because I wanted to wait for you. Not waiting for Yi Qing Luo to reply. Kitty Li's face had already turned red from anger as she flailed around in Zhou Mo's arms. Pui. What won't hurt sister, what you did is hurting sister. Drugging sister and still dare to appear in front of sister. Frivolous man, don't stop Kitty, Kitty wants to scratch him to death. Zhu Wu Xian didn't even blink his eyes. He turned a deaf ear to Kitty Li's accusations. His gaze had been fixed on Yiqing Luo from the start till the end. His gaze was calm without any fluctuation of emotions. But Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that the gaze he shot towards her was scorching hot. She frowned slightly as her expression turned cold. What are you waiting for me for? I want to speak to you alone. Zhu Wu Xian said. No way. Kitty Li rejected without thinking. Zhu Wu Xian looked at Yiqing Luo quietly, waiting for her reply. Yiqing Luo's lips pursed even tighter. The man beside her suddenly pushed her body forward. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she looked at him sideways. But towards Dmo Xian's doting eyes. Like obsidian, it shone with an eye-catching radiance. Looking over, what was reflected in his eyes was her face. He raised his hand and brushed away the stray hair on the girl's cheek. The person who understands you best is me. Go. Beside her cheek was the touch of a man's fingertips. It carried a man's elegant sandalwood scent. Her eyelashes fluttered. Suddenly, his small body leaned forward. She hooked her wrist around the man's neck. She abruptly pulled the man down, then tiptoed and planted a kiss on his lips. The girl's eyes were full of smiles. Good boy. She withdrew her hand and took a few steps back from Dmo Xian. The moment he turned around, the expression on his face became indifferent. All right. This word was a reply to Zhu Wuxin. After saying those words, she took the lead and walked toward the inner courtyard. Zhu Wu Xian was stunned for a moment. To be more precise, it was from the moment Dmo Xian hugged Yiqing Luo tightly, that indistinctly provocative sentence, the person who understands you the most, is me. His thoughts were a little absent-minded. Especially when he saw Yiqing Luo taking the initiative to kiss Dmo Xian. His heart felt like it was being torn apart by something. Until the young lady's figure disappeared from his sight. Only then did Zhu Wu Xian's calm eyes ripple. Following that, he chased up to Yiqing Luo's footsteps. At the same time, Mo Xian raised his devilish phoenix eyes and was about to tease, Yo. I didn't expect our overlord to be so magnanimous, he actually. Chapter 39-29. Because, the air pressure in the lobby instantly turned frosty. The air seemed to have frozen. Everyone couldn't help but shiver. They all turned to look at the Dizun, who was sitting stiffly at the side with a gloomy face. That handsome and elegant face was covered with frost. His entire body was burning with an aura that was about to explode. Everyone, in front of Yiqing Luo, his magnanimity and generosity were all an act. Inner courtyard. Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks as she turned her head to look at Zhu Wu Xian. What do you want to say? He turned his head. Coincidentally, he bumped into a white robe. This was the first time he saw Zhu Wuxin wearing white, so he was not used to it. Her momentary daze was seen by Zhu Wuxin. The lines on Zhu Wu Xian's face clearly softened. Even his gaze towards Yiqing Luo had turned gentle. I know, you don't want to see me. Why did you still appear when you knew? Do you really think that I really don't dare to make a move against you? Yiqing Luo's expression turned cold. Zhu Wuxin shook his head. I want to see you. Yiqing Luo replied, just because you want to see me, I must see you. I'm going to Heaven Realm for a period of time and there's a possibility that I won't be able to see you for a very long period of time. Zhu Wu Xian seemed as though he couldn't hear the impatience in Yiqing Luo's tone. While he was talking, his eyes were fixed on Yiqing Luo without blinking. His tone was sincere and serious. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her eyes suddenly narrowed. Zhu Wu Xian, you're going to Heaven Realm. Is it because of secluded Darkness Palace's plan? Zhu Wuxin opened his mouth, wanting to speak. But, after meeting Yiqing Luo's smiling yet not smiling expression, The words at the tip of his tongue were stuck in his throat. He lowered his eyes slightly, avoiding Yiqing Luo's gaze. I know, you don't like people lying to you, so. This question, I'm unable to answer you. In other words, I guessed correctly. Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly. Zhu Wu Xian, didn't you say that you've already cancelled the collaboration with the Palace of Darkness? Why, did you return to the Palace of Darkness? Clearly, her voice was very calm. Even his tone did not fluctuate in the slightest. Yet, it brought with it an extremely oppressive feeling. Chu Wuxin's head was still lowered, not looking at Yiqing Luo's expression. Evidently, he had decided to remain silent. Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly. If Zhu Wu Xian was unwilling to answer. No matter how she asked, Zhu Wu Xian would not answer. She simply couldn't be bothered to communicate with Zhu Wuxin anymore. Since you don't want to talk, you specially came to find me just to bid farewell? Yes. This time, Zhu Wuxin responded. He even raised his head. Also, I want to tell you, Chu Wuxin pursed his thin lips. This was something he had never done before. Yiqing Luo could tell that he was nervous. Zhu Wu Xian was silent for several breaths of time. Then, he continued, previously, I did something that made you unhappy, but I do not regret it. Because I want you to accompany me. Yiqing Luo laughed in anger. You want me to accompany you so you make use of my trust in you to drug me? Zhu Wuxin, you claim that you understand me, but are you sure that you really understand me? Chu Wuxin continued to stare at her with his extremely dark eyes. After Yiqing Luo finished her words, he then shook his head as his voice became gentler. I don't regret what I did. The only thing I regret is to make use of your trust. Yiqing Luo laughed out of anger once again. She expressed that she really couldn't understand Zhu Wu Xian's train of thought. I only want to tell you, everything that I did was not entirely for myself. Chapter 39:30. What do you mean? What did he mean by be careful of the people around her? The people around her were either lovers or brothers. They had gone through life and death together. They were all people she could absolutely trust. Zhu Wu Xian didn't say much. He raised his hand and stretched it towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was astute as she avoided Zhu Wu Xian's hand with a vigilant look. Zhu Wu Xian's hand froze in midair. Several breaths later, his slender fingers retracted one by one. His dark and gloomy eyes looked at her with an obvious sadness. As though Yiqing Luo's actions had hurt him. But Yiqing Luo could only capture this little bit, a peculiar emotion. By the time she wanted to delve deeper into it, Zhu Wu Xian had already leapt onto the top of the wall. His white robe fluttered, showing his cold and aloof arrogance, like a winter plum. He stood on top of the wall and gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo for a moment. Following that, he had already disappeared from Yiqing Luo's vision. Yiqing Luo's brows knitted tightly as she retracted her gaze. What did Zhu Wu Xian mean? Why did he say such things to her out of nowhere? Based on Zhu Wu Xian's character, he would say such things. It shouldn't be as simple as sowing discord. He must have heard some news from the secluded palace. She didn't know what was wrong with Zhu Wu Xian, since he had already appeared to remind her. Couldn't he just make things clear before he left? It was better not to say anything than to leave half of it. She was cursing silently in her heart. Suddenly, she felt a tight grip on her waist. A scorching and wide embrace enveloped her completely. Her body was being held tightly by someone. On top of her head, there was a heavy object as a mellow voice with a smile yet not a smile floated down. He's already gone far away and you still haven't regained your senses. Could it be that you can't bear for him to leave? That voice, obviously had a hint of laughter. But Yiqing Luo heard the sarcasm in it. Yiqing Luo hurriedly stretched out her hand and hugged the person's waist. No, I'm just thinking about what he said earlier. On top of her head, the man sneered. His laughter was a little cold. Yiqing Luo rubbed against his arms but it wasn't able to alleviate the man's gloomy atmosphere. Pei Sheng and the others had already walked in. On seeing Yi Qing Luo, he cried out and started to complain, "Ah Luo ah. Don't think that the overlord appeared to be very magnanimous. The minute you and Zhu Wu Xian arrived at the inner courtyard, his entire person was like a huge ice mountain. We're about to be frozen into ice." As soon as he finished speaking, Dmo Xian shot him a glare. Pei Sheng was so frightened by his sharp gaze that she immediately covered her mouth. Nestled in Dmo Xian's arms, Yi Qing Luo sighed helplessly. Her small hands clutched Dmo Xian's clothes as she slowly raised her head. Even without Pei Sheng's explanation, she was well aware of it. Dmo Xian was the king of vinegar. How could he really not mind her being alone with Zhu Wuxin? He dotingly took the initiative to let her speak to Zhu Wuxin alone. He just didn't want to make things difficult for her. Of course, it was also because he believed in the relationship between her and Zhu Wuxin. But Yi Qing Luo also knew that he was feeling rather unhappy. Just like now. After sensing that Zhu Wuxin's aura had disappeared, filled with unhappiness, he looked for her to pacify him. "All right, my obedient Xian." Her hand followed his clothes and stretched out to his face. Following that, her fingers pinched. Pulling the corners of the man's lips, he pulled out a smile. My Xian is even more enchanting when he smiles. Chapter 39-31. Yi Qing Luo. A man who couldn't satisfy his desires was really scary. Speaking of which, what did Zhu Wu Xian tell you? Is there a need to whisper? Zhou Mo was very curious. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips and shook her head. "It's still those ridiculous words, don't take it to heart." Huang Fu Zhentian had a dazed look. "Didn't Pavilion Master Zhu specially accompany me back to the Heaven Realm? One person left just like that? Then why was Zhu Wu Xian squatting at the treasure gathering so early in the morning?" Accompanying is just an excuse. Zhu Wu Xian is obviously waiting for little Qing Luo. Zhou Mo clicked his tongue as his devilish phoenix eyes rose, as he continued to say as though he wished for the world to be in chaos, "You are just a springboard." Huang Fu Zhentian. Was it possible that taking the benevolent route wasn't able to control the youngsters? Yi Qing Luo stared at Zhou Mo, afraid that Zhou Mo would say something shocking as she hurriedly changed the topic. "Old Master Huang Fu, when do you intend to leave?" "Immediately." When Huang Fu Zhentian said this, the expression on his face had some slight changes. He took a deep look at Pei Sheng and said, "All along, I wanted to thank you personally. If it wasn't for the fact that you helped that lad, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to see that lad today." He paused slightly and continued, "And that day Pei Sheng suffered an assassination attempt. I will handle it and absolutely will not let Pei Sheng suffer any grievances." She could tell that Huang Fu Zhentian really couldn't bear to part with Pei Sheng. These 2 days, the relationship between the both of them had deepened. Even Pei Sheng was willing to change his way of addressing him as grandfather. Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly. Huang Fu Zhentian spoke solemnly, "Miss Yi, gathering treasure is Pei Sheng's wish and also his dream, so for the next few days, I'll have to trouble you." Saying that, Huang Fu Zhentian straightened his body as he slowly bowed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo hurriedly stretched out her hand as she stopped Huang Fu Zhentian. "The current Pei Sheng really doesn't need us to worry about him. Just let him grow up on his own." "Yes, grandfather, don't worry about me." Pei Sheng went up and held Huang Fu Zhentian's hand. The both of them exchanged a smile. This heartwarming scene was heartwarming. However, there were also people who were so angry that they gritted their teeth. Yi Qing Luo's sharp senses detected a strange fluctuation in the air. She gave him a sidelong glance. He saw 3 figures standing behind the temporarily built withered tree. Huang Fu Fengyan was glaring at them with hatred. The fierceness and hatred in his eyes. It was as if it wished to swallow them whole. A powerful aura spread out. Naturally, it attracted the attention of the others. When Huang Fu Zhentian looked over and saw Huang Fu Fengyan's savage and warped face, his face instantly darkened. Evil creature. Huangfu Zhentian was unable to restrain his rage and grunted coldly. What are you glaring at? Did I punish you wrongly? Huangfu Fengyan instinctively shrunk her neck when she heard Huangfu Zhentian's voice, and she hid behind big brother and third brother. Huangfu Qifei's lips curled into a warm smile. No matter what grandfather does, it's always right. This time's matter is indeed Fengyan's fault. Towards grandfather's punishment, Fengyan doesn't dare to not accept it. Saying that, he lowered his head slightly and looked at Huangfu Fengyan as he appeased her in a warm voice. Fengyan, am I right? Chapter 39-32. Until Huangfu Fengyan was dragged out by Huangfu Qifei. Yi Qing Luo then noticed. Huangfu Fengyan's temperament had undergone a huge change. Just 2 days ago, when he saw her, she was still arrogant and domineering. It was as if she did not take these people from the Earth domain seriously and had a high and mighty attitude. But now, her entire body was shrouded in a layer of deathly aura. There was a deathly aura between his brows. The light in his eyes dimmed a lot. Wait a minute, Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as she carefully sized up Huangfu Fengyan. After noticing something, she suddenly laughed out loud. His curved eyebrows were filled with mockery. Huangfu Fengyan's expression instantly darkened. His eyes were filled with uncontrollable resentment. If it wasn't for Huangfu Qifei holding her wrist tightly, she would have died. Perhaps, Huangfu Fengyan almost couldn't control the anger in her heart as she pounced towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see Huangfu Fengyan's madness. His laughter became more and more mocking. He didn't expect the old man to be so ruthless. The old man actually, directly crippled more than half of Huangfu Fengyan's profound rank. Yes, most of them. Previously, Huangfu Fengyan's talent was passable, and she had the Huangfu bloodline. Moreover, she had been supported by many resources since she was young. Her profound rank was at least at the 7th or 8th level of the Sage Profound Realm. But, the current Huangfu Fengyan. Judging from the fluctuations of the profound waves on her body, I'm afraid he's only hovering around the Sky Profound Realm. In fact, it was even showing signs of slipping. Profound Sky, if they were placed in the Nirvana realm, they would be the best among the geniuses. However, Huangfu Fengyan was someone from the Heaven realm. In the heavenly realm, even the lowly people were like dust. Their strength was probably above Huangfu Fengyan's. To the arrogant Huangfu Fengyan, this move was indeed the cruelest punishment. It was no wonder that Huangfu Fengyan was looking at them as if they were her father's murderer. No, even killing one's own father wouldn't have such a huge grudge. Slut! Looking at Yi Qing Luo's ridiculing smile, Huangfu Fengyan was so infuriated that her eyes turned red. She struggled to pounce towards Yi Qing Luo. His face was hideous and terrifying. Shut up! Huangfu Zhentian berated angrily. Looks like the punishment I gave you isn't enough. You still don't understand etiquette, right? Grandfather. Huangfu Fengyan was angered to the point of tears. Before he could finish, she was forcefully pulled back by Huangfu Qifei. Huangfu Qifei shook his head at her, then said gently, Grandpa, it's getting late, let's return to the Heaven realm first. Huangfu Zhentian grunted coldly and didn't even want to take another glance at Huangfu Fengyan. He gave Pei Xing a few instructions. Huangfu Zhentian led the three of them away from Treasure Gathering Hall. Before leaving, Yi Qing Luo noticed that Huangfu Qifei's indistinct vision fell onto her. That gaze made Yi Qing Luo feel uncomfortable. In the Huangfu trio, she couldn't see through him at all. It was this Huangfu third young master Huangfu Qifei. Compared to young master Huangfu Dongyu, this third young master was the truly difficult person to deal with. Moreover, it could be seen. Although Huangfu Dongyu was the eldest young master, he still followed Huangfu Qifei's opinion. Earlier, Huangfu Qifei's meaningful gaze, what did it mean? Why, after Zhu Wu Exan left, you can't bear to let those few trashes from the Huangfu family leave? Above her head, a man's deep voice floated down, with a smile yet not a smile tone. The sense of danger was extremely thick. All right, a jealous man couldn't be offended. Chapter 39-33. Glancing at the group of people around, it was obvious that they were waiting for a good show. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Suddenly, she stretched out her arms and hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck, putting all her body weight on the man. She raised her head and looked at Dmo Xian with a smile. The Overlord, are you so unconfident in your own charm? Saying that, her slender fingers had already clasped the man's chin. The smile on the corner of her mouth was like a rogue who teased a good family man. She tilted her head and her voice became gentler. At present, the Overlord's face is my favorite face, and it is also this face that makes me captivated. So captivated that I can't see anyone else. She sighed helplessly and said, tell me, I have you, a little devil. Who else can I not bear to part with? Pfft. The crowd who were watching the show immediately burst out laughing. One by one, they gave a thumbs up, so impressed that they simply couldn't say a word. Yiqing Luo ignored that group of people, hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck, and kept swaying her body. Little beauty, do you think what I said is reasonable? Dmo Xian's eyes became darker and darker. His burning gaze seemed to want to swallow Yiqing Luo. Immediately, under Yiqing Luo's gaze, his thin lips curled up, so handsome that it made one's heart skip a beat. In that case, you only fancy my face? The man's voice sounded very deep. Yiqing Luo released his chin and stuffed herself into the man's arms, the corners of her lips curled up. How can you say it in such a superficial way? You originally belonged to me. Dmo Xian's brows rose, but he didn't say another word. Yiqing Luo hugged his waist again. Looks like it's time for you to prove your charm. She moved closer to his ear and whispered these words. It was completely hinting at something. Dmo Xian heard that, his eyes deepened a few notches. He even used that meaningful, seductive peach blossom eyes, to stare deeply at her for a while. Yiqing Luo's legs went soft from that gaze. Somehow she felt as if she had consciously jumped into the pit that the man had dug. However, the jealous man was finally appeased. The way the two of them treated the onlookers like air had deeply provoked the crowd. Zhou Mo was the first to flip the table and leave with Kitty Li in his arms. Right at this moment, a slender figure walked over from outside the treasure-gathering hall. Little Qingwu, I'm telling you, don't ever go in. Go in and be abused. When Zhou Mo saw the person coming, he immediately complained bitterly. Jun Qingwu glanced at Zhou Mo indifferently. She ignored him and walked straight into the inner courtyard. The minute Yiqing Luo saw Jun Qingwu, she happily went forward to welcome her. His gaze fell on her hand. Jun Qingwu was holding a letter. Letter? Your letter. Jun Qingwu handed the letter to her. Mine? Yiqing Luo was puzzled. Who would specially ask Jun Qingwu to send her a letter? Your old acquaintance. Jun Qingwu glanced at the letter. Her meaning was, look at it yourself. You'll know once you read it. Yiqing Luo opened the letter suspiciously. When she saw the name on the letter, her pupils suddenly shrank. Miao Ji. It was a letter from Miao Ji. The Miao tribe's holy maiden from the Miao Gu clan was Miao Yi's aunt. At that time, Miao Ji had ascended to the earth realm. Miao Yi had inherited the Miao tribe's holy maiden's position. She had not expected that Miao Ji would actually write her a letter. After reading the contents of the letter, she put the letter down. Mo Yuing immediately asked, what did she say? Yiqing Luo was stunned. Mo Yuing had always been someone who didn't put anything to heart. But now she took the initiative to ask about Miao Ji. Chapter 39-34. Zhan He, did something happen to him? Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly constricted. The goo poison in Long Yunzhan's body was still lingering in his body. At that time, He specially sent Miao Yi to the West Continent to help Long Yunzhan resolve the goo. However, Miao Yi could only temporarily suppress the goo poison in Long Yunzhan's body. Old Man Song had even mentioned before, the goo poison in Long Yunzhan's body was not a goo that could be cultivated in the Nirvana realm. This kind of goo worm could only be nurtured by someone with extraordinary strength. To completely cure the goo, he could only go to the upper realm and find someone who understood the art of witchcraft to cure Long Yunzhan. Miao Ji had delivered the letter. It was regarding the poison in Long Yunzhan's body and the problem of meeting her tomorrow. However, after knowing that the letter was written by Miao Ji, Mo Yuing actually took the initiative to ask a question. Yi Qing Luo's first reaction was to think of Long Yunzhan. Mo Yuing blinked her empty eyes and shook her head stiffly, no. Yi Qing Luo stared intently at Mo Yuing. That expressionless, soulless face was devoid of any other emotions. After a while, Yi Qing Luo's expression loosened up. Let's go see Miao Ji together tomorrow. Mo Yuing wasn't someone who would lie. She said she was fine. At least before she came to the Earth domain, Long Yunzhan's poison did not flare up again. Mo Yuing nodded vigorously. Yi Qing Luo had just kept the letter. He wanted to hug Jun Qinggu and thank her. The arms did not have time to open. Her feet suddenly left the ground. Her whole body fell into a broad embrace. Above her head, a man's low and husky voice floated down. Yet, there was a hint of coldness in it. Lil Luo, just woke up not too long ago. She still needs more rest. I'll take her away first. Everyone widened their eyes, wanting to stop him. What did he mean by needing more rest? Obviously, Yi Qing Luo had just woken up not long ago. I didn't talk to them for long, okay? However, no one dared to say such words. He could only watch helplessly as Dmo Xian brought Yi Qing Luo away in an extremely overbearing manner. Yi Qing Luo wrapped her arms around Dmo Xian's neck and felt the cool breeze brushing past her cheeks. But soon, she was tightly wrapped in the man's arms. Warmth engulfed her. Yi Qing Luo realized something. Her little head curled up in his arms. As soon as he arrived, he entered his room. Yi Qing Luo's back fell onto the soft bedding. The man's warm air pressure hit her face. Yi Qing Luo hurriedly stretched out her hand and blocked Dmo Xian's chest. As soon as he raised his head, he was met with a pair of obsidian eyes that were deep and filled with emotion. Her heart skipped a beat. Her cheeks were also flushed red. Didn't you say that I just woke up and need more rest? What are you doing? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows, her fingers caressed the man's brows and gently traced. Dmo Xian narrowed his eyes as he glanced at the fingers that were moving around on his face. His lips curled up devilishly. You're still more adorable when you're lying down. Yi Qing Luo. These words, why did it sound so horrifying? Don't make it sound like I'm a necrophiliac, okay? There was something wrong with this scene. Dmo Xian gave a low chuckle, but there wasn't any mirth in his eyes. You who is lying down, there's only me by your side. His voice was very deep. It was so deep that it made one's heart felt constricted. Yi Qing Luo was just about to say something. Chapter 39-35. I don't want to appear so petty. He buried his head in between her neck as his voice was very low and a little fuzzy. But she could hear the gloominess in his tone. Lil Luo, do you feel that my possessiveness is very scary? His voice turned deeper and deeper. I obviously know that there's nothing going on between you and him, but seeing the way he looks at you, the attitude he has towards you, I just want to hold you in my arms, just want you to belong to me alone. The man's voice, word by word, was clearly transmitted into Yi Qing Luo's ears. Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly constricted as her eyelashes started to tremble. She stretched out her hands and hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck, hugging him back. I know how you feel. She hugged the man tightly as her eyes turned slightly red. a long time ago I said, I don't hate your possessiveness. You want to own me, because you care about me, that's why you want me to belong to you alone. How would she not know? Her Xian had taken care of her feelings. How much pain had he suffered? How many times had she relied on Xian's pampering to do things that made Xian worried? Yiqing Luo cupped his face as a light kiss fell on his face. This kind of possessiveness, I don't find it scary at all, because I feel the same. Finally, her kiss fell on Dmo Xian's lips. Like a dragonfly touching the water, it moved away. Her hands cupped his face, pressing her forehead against his. Xian. Our feelings are the same. Because they loved each other, so they cared, so they wanted to own him. Yiqing Luo buried her head in his chest again as she whispered softly, telling Dmo Xian everything that she had said to Chu Wu Xian earlier. Finally, she raised her little head, her chin resting on his chest as she gazed at his clean chin. Say. What did he mean by, be careful of the people around you? To sow discord. His hand brushed Yiqing Luo's fine hair as Dmo Xian answered lazily. Yiqing Luo used her head to knock him. We're talking about serious matters, be more serious. Dmo Xian's voice became even fainter, with a trace of indifference, I'm very serious. Although that was the case. But the man's hand had already landed on her waist. His body turned slightly cold. Her robe was scattered on the side of the bed. Yiqing Luo was so angry that she laughed. Her little hand stopped the man. What kind of decency is this? Loosening his robe halfway, Dmo Xian propped himself up and his good-looking face was imprinted right in front of her eyes. Why don't you tell me, how did I become indecent? Yiqing Luo. Why don't you tell me what you're doing now, is considered decent? Could he move away from her and say those words with a straight face? Do you have any sense of shame? Lying through your teeth, doesn't your conscience hurt? Dmo Xian expressed, for the woman I love, what is face? What's the use of it? If he came, could he sleep with little Luo, To be able to sleep with Lil Luo, one's conscience would only feel better. Yiqing Luo, she only wanted to understand from Dmo Xian's mouth what the people around, Zhu Wu Xian meant by that. Couldn't they discuss the problem first before doing anything else? No matter how Yiqing Luo's inner heart rejected, or how her actions resisted. Finally, when the man's kiss landed. Chapter 39-36. By the time Yiqing Luo woke up, it was already the next morning. The man beside her had long disappeared. Yiqing Luo climbed up from the bed. Her entire body was sore and limp, almost unable to straighten her back. She simply didn't dare to recall the scene of being indecent treated by the man yesterday. That scene was too terrifying. Just recalling it made her legs wobbly. At this moment, she only wanted to use 2 words to describe her feelings, beast. Wasn't he a beast? The man last night was like a beast who had been trapped for a long time. Using all kinds of ways to torment her. He even forced her to stay awake. To put it nicely, she had said it herself. Since she had flirted with someone, she should be responsible. So she had to set an example. After that, he was unbridled, tormenting her. After that, he said that he was magnanimous to let her and Chu Wu Xian chat alone, so he must be rewarded. Hence, tormenting again. After that. There was no more after that. She opened her eyes, her entire body was about to fall apart. Her 4 limbs were almost not her own. Yiqing Luo cried out and pounced onto the blanket, not wanting to move at all. But time waited for no one. She still had to attend Miao Zhi's appointment today. After struggling for some time, Yiqing Luo scolded Dmo Xian in her heart as she got up from the bed. When she stepped on the ground, Yiqing Luo felt as though she was stepping on cotton, soft and fluffy. But although her body was sore, but she felt refreshed and that place was cool, without the pain she had imagined. At least that man still had some conscience. He knew that after tormenting her, he would serve her well. Yi Qing Luo snorted. The grievance in her heart had lessened by quite a bit. She hung Dmo Xian specially on the wooden frame with difficulty and let her put on the red robe neatly and washed up. She was finally able to walk normally and do other actions. Yi Qing Luo stretched her waist and stretched her muscles before walking out of the room. When she walked out of the courtyard, Yi Qing Luo saw Mo Yuing and Xiao Yimian sitting opposite each other on the stone bench. Old Lai was lying sloppily on the rockery with a blade of grass in his mouth. Gue Wu, Zhou Mo, and Kitty Li were nowhere to be seen. When Yi Qing Luo saw the two of them sitting opposite each other, she was rather astonished. He was very curious. The two of them could actually sit face to face peacefully, and the atmosphere wasn't that tense. Not easy at all. Mo Yuing sensed Yi Qing Luo's gaze and immediately stood up, walking towards Yi Qing Luo. Her pink body was petite and cute. When he pounced into Yi Qing Luo's arms, Yi Qing Luo withdrew her arms and gave him a full hug. During this period of time, Yi Qing Luo felt a gaze which was as sharp as a blade in front of her. She frowned and looked over. She met Xiao Yimian's gaze. Xiao Yimian didn't avoid her gaze. He just stared at her, the hand that was holding Mo Yuying's hand. TSK, that gaze was a little too much. Before Mo Yuing appeared, Xiao Yimian was gentle and polite to her. Many people even misunderstood that he liked her. Now, Mo Yuing had appeared. She, the stepping stone, was kicked to the side. Now that she was hugging Mo Yuing, she was being hated by him. Heh, men. Yi Qing Luo retracted her gaze and hugged Mo Yuing even more fiercely. Let's go, Shadow, let's go see Miao Ji. Mo Yuing nodded her head vigorously. Waiting here early in the morning was to wait for Yi Qing Luo to meet Miao Ji together. The goo poison in Long Yunzhan's body was not cured. Chapter 39-37. Yi Qing Luo hugged Mo Yuing as she walked towards the entrance of the courtyard. Xiao Yimian immediately stood up and followed behind. Yi Qing Luo halted her footsteps as she turned her head sideways and looked at Xiao Yimian as her slender brows rose slightly. You intend to keep following us? Xiao Yimian replied straightforwardly. His deep black eyes stared at Mo Yuing without blinking. His silver hair contrasted with his black eyes, making his pupils look even darker. So you're saying, you're already certain that she is the person you're looking for? Yi Qing Luo turned around and met his gaze. Those deep eyes seemed to be able to see through everything about him. His tone was unprecedentedly serious. To Yi Qing Luo, everyone in Devil class were her brothers who had gone through life and death together. Even if Mo Yuing was older than her. But in her heart, she had always treated Mo Yuing as her own sister to love. If Xiao Yimian was sincere in wanting to resolve the misunderstanding with Mo Yuing and get together again, Yi Qing Luo was naturally willing. The days they had spent together, Yi Qing Luo was certain that Xiao Yimian's character was indeed not bad. Moreover, his feelings towards Mo Yuing were very sincere. But the prerequisite was that he could really resolve the misunderstanding between him and Mo Yuing. And not with other cliché motives. Xiao Yimian's gaze didn't even blink, but his gaze became much gentler. Right. One word, clean and crisp, which also explained his attitude. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she hugged Mo Yuing and turned around as she walked out of the courtyard's main entrance. Her voice was slightly indifferent and calm, but her tone was filled with unquestionable might. Then remember what you said today. Xiao Yimian didn't reply as he followed behind her slowly. Old Lai leapt down from the rockery as he pounced over. There's such a lively place, how can you not bring me along? Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes at the old man who came up to her. After wandering for so long, you're not intending to return to Hell Palace? She realized. Why was there always a bunch of old urchins surrounding her? After Gue Yu left, a god thief came. Now there was another old Lai. Previously, they were still in a life-and-death situation with Hell Palace. Now, Hell Palace had become her acting cool backing. This world was really too complicated. Yiqing Luo was unable to keep up with this pace. Why would I want to go back to the Underworld Palace? It's so boring. There are so many interesting things to do with you. I don't want to go back. Lao Lai shook his head decisively. He looked as if he would risk his life to follow her. You can follow me, but don't create any trouble. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to persuade Old Lai. With Old Lai following him, many things would indeed be more convenient. At the very least, those who wanted to curry favor with him. They were afraid of Old Lai, so they did not dare to rush forward and surround her. In a relatively remote inn, Yiqing Luo's group had just arrived when a waiter went up to welcome them, leading them to the most corner of the private room. Yiqing Luo had just walked in when she saw Miao Ji standing by the window, deep in thought. Miao Ji, who had not been seen for a long time, was no longer wearing the complicated and intricate clothing she wore when she was in the Miao tribe. Instead, she was wearing a long green robe. Her black hair was tied up with a wooden hairpin. It made her look as gentle as water. Even the dignified and noble aura she exuded when she was at the Miaogu clan had become extremely gentle. Yiqing Luo didn't recognize the person in front of her for a moment. It was Miao Ji who heard the door opening as she regained her senses from her deep thoughts. She gave a gentle smile towards Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, long time no see. Chapter 39-38. Miao Ji smiled gently. Why? Didn't you come specially for my appointment? Why are you so surprised to see me? Yiqing Luo pulled out a chair and sat down as she sized Miao Ji up. I am indeed surprised. I haven't seen you for such a long time and you seem to have changed into another person. I thought I had recognized the wrong person. People have no choice but to wear a mask under certain circumstances. Miao Ji picked up the teapot and poured a cup of tea for everyone. My task is completed, so I can naturally remove the mask. Previously, Miao Ji, as an outsider, was taken over by the previous Miao tribe's holy maiden and became the Miao tribe's holy maiden. Only she knew how much pressure she had to bear. So, she had no choice but to toughen herself up. Dignified, indestructible. Only by making herself stronger. Only by making herself stronger could she deter those who had ill intentions. Now, she had already retreated unscathed to the heaven realm and was living a carefree life. Naturally, there was no need to put on that mask. The few behind her all sat down. Mo Yuing couldn't wait to ask, Aunt Miao, you said you already have a way to cure class monitor's goo, right? Her speech was much faster than usual. Even though her tone was still as calm as before. But she could feel the fear and uneasiness in her heart. Hearing this voice, Miao Ji frowned slightly as she looked at Mo Yuing. When she met Mo Yuying's eyes, her pupils suddenly shrank. Even his face had turned a few shades paler. What's the matter? Yiqing Luo noticed the change in Miao Ji's expression. Miao Ji stretched out her hand and held Mo Yuying's wrist. Mo Yuing was stunned as she blinked her eyes, seemingly puzzled. But Xiao Yinyan, who was by her side, moved his palm and quickly slapped down towards Miao Ji's hand. Miao Ji held Mo Yuying's hand and dodged to the side. That palm landed on the table. The teacups collided and the tea spilled out. Xiao Yinyan's eyes sunk as he raised his palm to stop Miao Ji. Yiqing Luo couldn't stand it anymore as her fingertips moved and the glower flame fan opened up and slid into Xiao Yinyan's palm. Xiao Yinyan, if you continue to make trouble, I will ask my shadow to get you out. Xiao Yinyan's hand froze as he frowned and looked at Yiqing Luo. At this time, Mo Yuing cooperatively looked up at him and nodded, yes, get out. Xiao Yinyan was speechless. Xiao Yinyan fell silent. But his line of sight was fixed on Miao Ji's hand that was holding Mo Yuying's. He was not familiar with Miao Ji. However, when she saw Miao Ji suddenly grabbing onto Mo Yuing, her actions were quick and she wanted to protect Mo Yuing. However, Miao Ji only pressed on Mo Yuying's pulse. After a few breaths, her brows furrowed even tighter. How long has your condition been like this? What? Mo Ying raised her head, her beautiful face was expressionless. Yi Qing Luo understood the meaning behind her words as her expression sunk. You're asking, her kind. Like a soulless state? Yes, Miao Ji said. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips slightly. Ever since I knew her, she has always been like this. But this young Master Qiao was rumored to be acquainted with the shadow. The shadow in the past was not like this. Pausing slightly, Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly widened. What you mean is, shadow was poisoned by a venomous worm? She became like this because of the goo worm? Yi Qing Luo's words came out. Qiao Yinyan and Mo Ying both looked at her. Then, they looked at Miao Ji in unison. Poisoned by a venomous worm? Chapter 39-39. Miao Ji, who was being stared at by several pairs of eyes, quickly let go of Mo Ying's wrist and shook her head. Her condition doesn't seem like she was poisoned. Yi Qing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. You made the atmosphere so serious if it's not. But before she could catch her breath, Miao Ji changed the topic again. The expression on her face was serious and serious. Her condition may be more troublesome than being poisoned. Troublesome? What do you mean? Do you know why she became like this? Qiao Yinyan was the most agitated as he stood up and stared at Miao Ji. Yi Qing Luo glanced at Qiao Yinyan and raised her hand to block in front of him. He lowered his eyes and looked at Yi Qing Luo's wrist. His cold expression became even colder. Even his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo had turned colder by a few notches. But Yi Qing Luo's hands still didn't move. Both sides fought for a moment. Qiao Yinyan gritted his teeth and clenched his fists as he sat down. But the pressure around him was so low that the surrounding air was slightly condensed. Aunt Miao, you don't have to care about him. Yi Qing Luo held Mo Ying's hand and looked at Miao Ji seriously. You said, the shadow is more troublesome than being poisoned. What's going on? If she is poisoned, I can still help and find those seniors to research. But her condition doesn't seem to be poisoned, but more like being possessed. Possessed? Yi Qing Luo was stunned. Did she hear it wrongly? Possessed? Her first reaction was being possessed by a ghost. But this was obviously impossible. It wasn't that there were no ghosts in this strange world. To be more precise, the so-called ghosts were all spiritual bodies. For example, the old man's song in her azure dew bracelet was also considered a type of ghost. As for profound practitioners like them, they were able to interact with spirits, so how could they be bewitched? I'm not talking about being harassed by other spiritual bodies or anything else. Miao Ji stared at Mo Ying for a while. I'm not too sure. But her condition seems like she has lost her soul. 3 souls and 6 spirits? If a person lost their soul, wouldn't they be a corpse? Although Mo Ying looked like a puppet without a soul. There's no soul light in her eyes, and even her pulse is so weak that it's hard to detect. This was also the first time Miao Ji had encountered such a situation. My goo worm cannot sense her soul power. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips tightly as she glanced sideways at the girl beside her. He couldn't believe it. This girl who would call her Qing Luo, who would fight for her favor, and even requested for kisses and hugs. It would be a puppet without a soul. Then, is there any way to retrieve her soul? Qiao Yinyan, who was ordered to sit by the side by Yi Qing Luo, opened his mouth hoarsely. His tone was filled with suppressed pain. Ever since he knew that Mo Ying's memory was a mess and she had completely forgotten about him. Qiao Yinyan's heart had always been in a mess. Now, he finally got his answer. Mo Ying didn't forget about him. Instead, he had lost his soul and all his memories. As long as he could find Mo Ying's soul, Mo Ying would definitely remember him. Miao Ji sighed. I'm not sure. Yiqing Luo swallowed the words that were in her mouth. She was clear that Miao Ji only specialized in goo poison. The reason why she could tell that Mo Ying had lost her soul. Chapter 39-40. Mo Ying's soul, perhaps only by going to the Godless Island would he be able to get the answer. Yiqing Luo had an intuition. Mo Ying becoming like this was definitely related to Godless Island. There was definitely something wrong with the so-called island owner of Godless Island. TSK. A way to search for souls, Old Lai, who had been leaning on the chair and playing with the teacup in boredom, suddenly spoke. He put down the teacup and looked at Yiqing Luo smilingly. I do. He smiled. The frightening scar on his face was even more shocking. The flesh that was sent flying was still moving. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change at all. Speak. Old Lai leaned over and looked as if he was presenting a treasure. There's nothing our underworld palace can't do. I can tell you the method to search for souls. However, this information can be considered as the underworld palace repaying the debt they owed you. As he spoke, he rubbed his hands together. How is it? Then let's see if your idea is reliable or not. Yiqing Luo rubbed her chin. Lao Lai proudly raised his chin and said, how can my method be unreliable? How can someone from my hell sect be unreliable? As he spoke, he lowered his voice again. Finding a soul can actually be said to be difficult. Have you heard of the ocean water divine armament? Vast water divine weapon? Yiqing Luo's brows twitched. Before he could say anything, Qiao Yinyan asked anxiously, you're talking about the azure water divine artifact that was sealed by the divine emperor before he passed away? It's rumored that there are 5 vast water divine weapons. Old Lai nodded. It's that vast water divine weapon. As long as he gathered all 5 divine artifacts, he would be able to call the wind and summon the rain, summoning the gods and ghosts. Not to mention finding the 3 souls and 7 spirits. But, according to the rumors of my Qiao family's ancestors, if we gather all 5 vast water divine artifacts and offer the blood of the descendant of the divine emperor as a sacrifice to the heavens, we can open the seal to the divine emperor's tomb. Qiao Yinyan said doubtfully. That's right. That's why I said that he could even undo the seal on the tomb of the god emperor. Isn't it a piece of cake to help that girl find her soul? Lao Lai said with a very reasonable look. Qiao Yinyan's frown deepened. Mo Ying raised her head. Her expressionless face did not have the slightest fluctuation of emotions. That pair of empty and soulless eyes blinked. Then, he said, it's too dangerous to gather all 5 azure water divine weapons. If someone really opens the tomb of the god emperor, the consequences will be unthinkable. She paused for a moment and held Yiqing Luo's hand. I'm all right, I'm already used to it. I don't remember the people in the past, but to be able to remember you, to remember everyone in devil class, that's enough. Yiqing Luo met with Mo Ying's empty eyes, hearing her saying that everything was for their sake. She couldn't help but hugged her into her arms. She was just about to speak. His voice was cut off again. Qiao Yinyan's voice was anxious, uneasy, and fearful. This won't do, that won't do. What should he do? In the past, she was clearly so lively and beautiful. Now, is it really fair for her? Calm down. Miao Ji comforted. The vast water divine relic was a divine relic used by the divine sovereign when he was still alive. Even if we wanted to find a divine relic, it wouldn't be that easy. What's more, even if we found the divine relic, other than the overlord, no one else is able to use the power of the divine relic. Qiao Yinyan's trembling body slowly stabilized. His eyes stared deadly at Mo Ying. The expression on his face was filled with pain. Chapter 39-41. Everyone finally quietened down and fixed their eyes on her. Yiqing Luo touched Mo Ying's head, looked at her and asked seriously, you only need to answer me, do you want to become a normal person? Mo Ying's fingers that were intertwined with hers suddenly tightened. Her eyelashes fluttered. This reaction had already indicated her answer. Yi Qing Luo brushed the hair on her forehead and gently stroked it. In front of me, there's no need to suppress your own thoughts. Mo Yuying's lifeless eyes faintly flashed a glimmer of light. After some time, she finally nodded her head under Yi Qing Luo's gaze. She thought. How could he not think about it? Who would be willing to be a puppet without feelings and emotions? She knew her own situation very well. For a person like her, other than everyone in Devil class, no one would treat her as a real person. She would also hope for warmth. She wanted to be like a normal person, to have her own emotions and expressions. But, the price of returning to normal was too great. She was afraid, just thinking about it is enough. Yi Qing Luo stopped Mo Yuying's thoughts as her lips curled up slightly. Leave the matter regarding the azure water god relic to me. Qing, Luo. Mo Yuying's lips moved, wanting to say something but hesitating. Yi Qing Luo smiled, lowered her head and leaned close to her ear. Don't feel guilty. It's not only because of you. My original intention was to gather all the Tsang Shui artifacts. Mo Yuying still wanted to say something. Yi Qing Luo had already patted her head as she widened the distance between them. To prevent Mo Yuying from blaming herself for the Tsang Shui artifact again. Yi Qing Luo changed the topic. Aunt Miao, let's not talk about this matter for now. Yesterday you wrote in the letter that you already have a way to cure Zhan's goo, is that true? Long Yun Zhan was mentioned. Mo Yuying's attention was indeed diverted. Miao Zhiwei was stunned for a moment before remembering her purpose of coming here today. To be honest, I'm not too sure myself. Yi Qing Luo wasn't disappointed. The poison that was placed on Long Yun Zhan's body was a poison from the upper realm. Naturally, it wasn't that easy to solve. As long as there was a glimmer of hope. It was better than having no hope at all. So, that means that you already know, just what is the goo poison in Zhan's body? She asked. Miao Zhi nodded with a serious expression. Based on what Yi told me, the goo poison in Sir Long's body should be the most powerful goo poison in the heaven realm, the heart-devouring goo. Witchcraft family? The best of witchcraft? Heart-devouring insect? Listening to these heavy blows falling one after another, Yi Qing Luo was extremely shocked. She had heard about this witchcraft family from Old Man Song. This witchcraft, compared to the Miaogu clan, it was of an unknown number of times higher level. They could be considered as the largest venomous insect clan in the upper realm. He was also in existence that many large forces were unwilling to provoke. Not wanting to provoke them and not wanting to provoke the Underworld Palace were two completely different concepts. The people from the Underworld Palace were a bunch of lunatics. They were clearly fighting head-on and causing a ruckus. If they provoked the Miaogu aristocrat clan, he might just die for no reason. He didn't even know how he died. It was very strange. Heart-devouring goo. That is an extremely precious kind of goo. It can be said that in the entire witchcraft family, there are less than 10 of them. Those are all peerless grade goo worms which had been nurtured for 100 years. When Miao Zhi said this, her tone was filled with admiration. Chapter 39-42. Listening to Miao Zhi's explanation. Yi Qing Luo was shocked. 100 years of nurturing witchcraft's best, peerless worm, was planted on Long Yun Zhan. Witchcraft aristocratic family. Or who had such deep hatred towards Long Yun Zhan? No matter if it was the witchcraft aristocratic family. Or someone else. The person who planted the worm on Long Yun Zhan was absolutely not a small character. The entire witchcraft aristocratic family had less than 10 heart-devouring worms, and it was planted on a young man with amnesia. Wait, amnesia. Yi Qing Luo's pupils contracted. Long Yun Zhan's amnesia. Could it be related to this heart-devouring worm? Human Dragon Clan. Long Yun Zhan. And the witchcraft aristocratic family. Looked like it involved a lot of people. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as a glint flashed past her eyes. Qing Luo, I specially asked you out today to tell you that this heart-devouring worm has no cure. Miao Ji looked at Yi Qing Luo's expression and couldn't bear it, but she had to make things clear. Yi Qing Luo was stunned as she suddenly raised her head. Didn't you say you have a way? The only way I can think of is. Miao Ji paused, took a deep breath and said word by word, while the heart-devouring worm hasn't acted up, kill the person who is poisoned. Impossible. Yi Qing Luo rejected without thinking. Kill Long Yunzhan? How could that be possible? If Long Yunzhan was really poisoned, and wanted to kill him to free him. Earlier when Long Yunzhan's poison acted up and hurt Yan Xiaoyi, she would have already taken action. Long Yunzhan was her brother. Her companion. No matter what, she would never give up on anyone. Other than this, there's no other way. Miao Ji sighed. I know, to you, this is a very painful thing, but actually, he is feeling more pain than you. Miao Ji looked at the young lady whose petite body started to tremble, as her voice became gentler. I know how you feel. If it wasn't for the fact that I can't think of any other way, I would definitely not suggest this to you. She stretched out her hand and placed it on the young lady's clenched fist. The terror of the heart-devouring parasite lies in its ability to slowly devour a person's heart, soul, consciousness, and everything that belongs to the victim. In the end, not even bones will be left of the victim. Most importantly, the heart-devouring parasite will also control the consciousness of the victim, making the victim do something that they will regret for the rest of their life while they are awake. She tightened her grip and said, when the parasite took effect, the pain and torment your brother suffered was worse than death. When he heard the name of this goo worm, Yi Qing Luo could roughly guess the insidiousness of this goo worm. He just didn't expect it to be so insidious. Qing Luo. Mo Yuying's hand grabbed onto Yi Qing Luo's arm as her little body trembled in shock. She opened her empty eyes as she stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. Even if there were no emotions, Yi Qing Luo could sense the fear and helplessness in Mo Yuying's heart. Yi Qing Luo tried her best to calm herself down as she raised her hand and rubbed her furry little head. Since we know that Ajan is afflicted with the heart-devouring parasite, then we will definitely be able to find a way to cure Ajan. Mo Yuying's stiff face started to show some signs of change. Then she nodded her head vigorously. Both her hands grabbed tightly onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Sigh. Miao Ji sighed helplessly. I knew you would say that. Chapter 39-43. Miao Ji let go of her hand. I will continue to think of a way, you should consider it well. Regarding Yi Qing Luo's choice. When Miao Ji mentioned it, she had already thought of this outcome. But even if she knew, she still had to say out this cruel method because she was responsible for Yi Qing Luo. But the final decision was still up to them. She found out that Mo Yuying had lost her soul. She found out about the terror of the heart-devouring parasite and the incurable parasite. Yi Qing Luo's mood was extremely heavy. Miao Ji let out a long sigh and gave her a few more reminders before she left. Before she left, she specially handed Mo Yuying a letter for her to pass to Miao Yi. After Miao Ji left, the few people in the private room had different emotions. Yi Qing Luo and Mo Yuying's minds were filled with Long Yunzhan and the heart-devouring parasite. As for Qiao Yinyan, his mind was filled with searching for Mo Yuying's lost soul and awakening her memory. His expression was complicated as he stared at Mo Yuying in pain. Only Old Lai didn't seem to feel the gloomy atmosphere at all. After Miao Ji left, he went up to Yi Qing Luo and his eyes lit up. Madam D, you said I will pass the Azure Water Divine Relic to you. Does that mean you intend to collect all 5 pieces of Azure Water Divine Relic? Saying that, he gave a sneaky smile. If I remember correctly, Madam D seems to have the Azure Water Divine Relic on you. When you collect all the Azure Water Divine Relic, can you bring me along? Let me have a look at the legendary Azure Water Divine Relic. Old Lai rubbed his hands as he spoke. That terrifying scar on his face was trembling so much that the red flesh was flying. The more he smiled, the more ferocious he looked. Yi Qing Luo didn't want to bother about him. Old Lai went nearer instead. His nagging was like a fly buzzing around her ear. Xiao Yinyan couldn't take it anymore as he pressed his palm on Old Lai's head. Old Lai fell onto the ground. He fell flat on his face. Can't you see that we are in trouble? Xiao Yinyan was irritated and his expression was dark. Old Lai rubbed his face as he got up from the ground. Didn't I give you an idea? Xiao Yinyan didn't even look at Lao Lai. He suddenly reached out and grabbed Mo Yuying's wrist. You, come out with me for a while. Mo Yuying didn't have time to react. Xiao Yinyan had already dragged her to the door. The room door closed and there was only Yiqing Luo and Old Lai left in the room. Lao Lai obviously wanted to be mischievous again. But seeing Yiqing Luo's gloomy expression, he rubbed his sore butt. Finally, he snorted loudly to show that he was angry. Then he jumped down from the window and flew away. Yiqing Luo, forget it, when Old Lai knows that no one is coaxing him, he will come back obediently. What are you doing? Mo Yuying's arm was in pain from his grip, but she didn't struggle. It was only when they reached a corner of the corridor that Xiao Yinyan stopped in his tracks. With one hand, he pulled the girl into his embrace. What's your relationship with that man called Ajan? He could tell. No matter if it was Yiqing Luo or Mo Yuying, they both cared about that man. Yiqing Luo obviously treated him as a brother. But Mo Yuying, the attention she paid to that man was obviously different. So much that she didn't even care about the fact that she didn't have 3 souls and 7 spirits. She only wanted to know how to cure that man's goo. She even frowned because of that man. Xiao Yinyan had been suppressing his emotions. Chapter 39-44. She was obviously so cold towards him. Even when she spoke, she would only reply after a long time. As though she didn't care about him at all. The reason why she cared about him was because he was Yiqing Luo's friend. This feeling had been accumulating in the depths of Xiao Yinyan's heart. This time, after he felt that Mo Yuying had a different attitude towards another man, he completely exploded. Xiao Yinyan held on to her hand as he stared deadly at her. He wanted to transmit his inner feelings to her. But Mo Yuying was expressionless. There was no trace of emotion in her empty eyes. She didn't reply. Their eyes met. After some time, Xiao Yinyan felt a sense of defeat. He shut his eyes tightly and slowly released the hand which was holding Mo Yuying's hand. His shoulders drooped down powerlessly. His back was bent and he looked extremely dejected. He slowly took a few steps back and gazed deeply at Mo Yuying. Then, he slowly turned around. His feet staggered and swayed. It was as if something heavy had completely crushed him. Mo Yuying's empty eyes suddenly blinked. She stared at Xiao Yinyan's back view. His extremely black eyes flashed with a hint of dark and gloomy light. She lifted up the wrist which was held by Xiao Yinyan. She lowered her eyes and stared at the place which was held by Xiao Yinyan. Then, she slowly pressed her hand on her chest. Just now, when Xiao Yinyan let go of her hand, that place on her chest seemed to hurt a little. That prickling feeling disappeared in a flash. Was it painful? Does she also have the feeling of pain? Mo Yuying looked at the place where her palm was pressed and raised her head stiffly, looking at the man's staggering tall figure. Just now. The moment when he turned around to leave. Her body actually had a reflexive desire to keep him. This was a strange and wonderful feeling. She had never felt this way before. Bam! Suddenly, there was a sound of a heavy object colliding in front. Mo Yuying looked over. In front, that man who couldn't even walk steadily crashed into the stone wall at the corner. He staggered and fell to the ground. As for him, he just sat on the ground. He had no intention of getting up at all. Mo Yuying subconsciously walked towards that person and squatted beside him. You can't move? Why are you sitting on the ground? Hearing this emotionless, machine-like voice, Luo Binyan's heart skipped a beat. The man with the dog on his back suddenly turned his head and looked at her happily. You. Are you concerned about me? He grabbed her wrists with both hands. Her face was reflected in his eyes. Mo Ewing looked at her hands that were being grabbed and blinked her eyes. She stared at him and said, "This is outside and you are the young master of the Chiao family. Don't let others see you being rude." Xiao Yinyan's eyes were full of smiles. With Mo Yuying's support, he stood up. His gaze had been fixed on her from the beginning to the end. It was as if he wanted to absorb everything about her into the deepest part of his heart. Mo Ewing felt a little uncomfortable under his gaze. Just as he was about to say something, her wrists suddenly tightened. Her petite body was tightly held in Xiao Yinyan's arms. Mo Ewing was a little stiff. But she didn't struggle. Chapter 39:45. Mo Yuying's body stiffened and she felt very uncomfortable. But, he had to admit it. Xiao Yinyan held her in his arms. She could feel the warmth from Xiao Yinyan's body. She was not disgusted. He had no intention of resisting. On the contrary, something seemed to fill her heart. Mo Ewing didn't know what this feeling was, nor could she describe it. I won't ask any more. I won't ask any questions that you don't want to answer. Xiao Yinyan tightened his grip on her, as if he was afraid that the person in front of him would disappear. That fearful and cautious look on her face. Mo Ewing blinked her empty eyes again. Soon after, she slowly raised her hands and imitated the way he hugged her, hugging his back. Xiao Yinyan's body stiffened. His muscles were all tensed up. Mo Ewing didn't notice the change in the man as she followed her first instinct and said word by word, "The Jean that Qing Luo mentioned is my class monitor. He is." Slowly, she told him about her relationship with Long Yunzhan. This was probably the most she had ever spoken in her memory. However, after the explanation, Xiao Yinyan's mood had obviously improved a lot. She did not continue to dwell on the matter of how much she had said. The next day, Mo Ewing then raised the matter of returning to Nirvana realm to Yiqing Luo. She came to the Earth domain originally to help Yiqing Luo. Now, he had finished helping her. He also obtained information about the goo worms in Long Yunzhan's body. Furthermore, she had been in the Earth domain for a long time. If he didn't go back, the brothers of the World Mercenary Group were all worried to death. She still had to tell her brothers about the heart-devouring goo. Yiqing Luo didn't stop her. After all, Mo Ewing had been in the Earth realm for a very long time. However, she readily agreed. Someone immediately protested. Xiao Yinyan grabbed Mo Yuying's wrist and stood up. "I don't agree." He then turned to look at Mo Ewing. I won't allow you to leave the Earth domain." Mo Ewing tilted her head and looked at him expressionlessly. "I want to go back." "No." Xiao Yin pursed his lips into a straight line. It wasn't easy for him to meet Mo Ewing again, even if they hadn't solved the misunderstanding. But, we met again. He didn't want to let her out of his sight again. He had already let go once. He didn't want to let go a second time. Mo Ewing was a little unhappy and struggled to shake off his hand. "Xiao Yinyan." Xiao Yinyan refused to let go. The two of them went back and forth. Yiqing Luo's teeth were about to ache from watching. "Xiao Yinyan, if you don't want to leave the shadow, why don't you just follow it to the Nirvana realm?" She rolled her eyes. Xiao Yinyan frowned. He was the eldest young master of the Chiao family. How could he leave so easily? That's where Shadow has been living ever since he lost his memories of you and me. Don't you want to take a look? Don't you want to get to know Shadow's brothers and sisters? You don't want the people Shadow cares about to acknowledge your existence? Yiqing Luo didn't even bother to pant as she continuously sent out soul interrogations. Xiao Yinyan, he looked at Yiqing Luo as his handsome face trembled slightly, vaguely distorted. In the end, it turned into two words. I will go. Yiqing Luo smiled satisfactorily. This is the attitude of chasing after my shadow. Then it's decided happily. The decision was made. Chapter 3946. Mo Yuing kept staring at Xiao Yinyan's departing figure, not making a single sound. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she gave a teasing smile. Why? Shadow isn't willing to let him go to Nirvana realm with you? Hearing her voice, Mo Yuying's stiff head turned over as her empty gaze met Yiqing Luo's. Following that, she thought seriously for a moment and shook her head. It's not that I'm not willing. That means I'm willing. Yiqing Luo's smile became even more evil. Mo Yuing blinked as her expressionless face creased. It's his freedom to go wherever he wants to go. So even if he wants to go to Nirvana realm, it doesn't have much to do with me. This honest words made Yiqing Luo cough dryly. Luckily Xiao Yinyan had returned to the Qiao residence. Otherwise, hearing this, wouldn't her heart be pierced to death? TSK. Looked like Xiao Yinyan's journey to chase after his wife was still far away. She had already hinted so clearly, but Mo Yuing had no reaction at all. She could only silently cheer for Xiao Yinyan in her heart. Qing Luo. Suddenly, Mo Yuying's voice sounded a little hesitant as she called out Yiqing Luo's name. Waiting for Yiqing Luo's gaze to look over. Her two little hands were pinched together. Since yesterday, I've been wanting to ask you a question. Yiqing Luo replied, what you want to ask is, regarding the heart-devouring parasite, should I tell Ajan? Mo Yuing nodded. Of course he has the right to know his own situation. Yiqing Luo had no intention to hide. Say whatever you want to say. In the end, it still depends on Ajan's own choice. Mo Yuying's adorable lips moved as though she wanted to say something, but eventually she kept her words back. I know what you're worried about. Yiqing Luo pinched Mo Yuying's face as she explained with a light smile. I also know that based on Ajan's character, he will definitely choose to kill him now, in case the heart-devouring parasite acts up in future and hurt his brothers. If it was anyone from the World Mercenary Group, they would probably choose this way. They would rather sacrifice themselves and not bear to let any of their brothers get hurt. Yiqing Luo's eyes lifted up slightly as her gaze looked towards the horizon, as though she could see those brothers in the world group through the sky. There was a gentle and peaceful smile on his face. After telling him everything, you just need to tell him one thing for me. If he believes me, then he should live on. Mo Yuying's eyelashes trembled and her empty eyes blinked. An indescribable emotion spread in his heart. It seemed like, ever since they arrived in the land, she could sense more and more emotions. It was as if she was becoming more and more like a person. After a while, she nodded vigorously. Yes. Right, the world group had always believed in Qing Luo. Qing Luo would definitely bring them a miracle. Therefore, the class monitor would be fine. The heart-devouring parasite could definitely be removed. At noon, the group ate a meal together. Mo Yuing brought Xiao Yinyan to the Nirvana realm. Before leaving, Patriarch Xiao even sent him off. He looked at Mo Yuing with sparkling eyes. Although Mo Yuing didn't have a soul or emotions, her body instinctively understood some of the ways of the world. Looking at the passionate Patriarch Xiao, her face stiffened as she said word by word, Patriarch Xiao, I will get Xiao Yinyan back as soon as possible. Patriarch Xiao replied, no need, no need. You can use this lad for as long as you want. Just take him, it's fine even if you don't want to bring him back. Chapter 3947. Xiao Yinyan, the onlookers. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. No wonder Xiao Yinyan was able to obtain Patriarch Xiao's permission so easily. Generally speaking, large forces and clans would not allow their eldest son to wander around the lower realms. To them, this was beneath their dignity. Furthermore, it was extremely risky for people from the Earth domain to head to the Nirvana realm. If the Historian of Balance and the others found out, it would be very difficult to deal with them. But Patriarch Xiao didn't even hesitate before he agreed to it. How afraid was Patriarch Xiao that his son couldn't find a wife? Previously, when he saw her, his eyes also lit up. Now that he saw Mo Yuing, his eyes lit up. Could it be that to Patriarch Xiao, it was fine as long as it was a woman? After sending Mo Yuing and Xiao Yinyan off with her eyes, Yiqing Luo turned back and hugged Kitty Li, rubbing her furry little head as she wailed, "Speaking of this, we really haven't seen our brothers in the world group for a long time. I really miss them." "Yes, oh. When will they be able to reach the Earth realm together?" Kitty Li hugged Yiqing Luo back. A cold gaze was fixed on the two of them. Yiqing Luo directly ignored it as she hugged the soft kitten, comforting Shadow's reluctant heart as she sent him off, very soon, especially after Shadow returns. They will definitely work harder to improve themselves, then come back to the Earth boundary to look for us. Their 3-month appointment was about to arrive. I hope when we meet again. They had all undergone earth-shattering changes. The two of them were talking to each other. The owner of the cold gaze finally couldn't take it anymore. He directly grabbed Kitty Li and pulled her into his arms. With an unfriendly expression, he said, "Woman, if you feel lonely, go to your sovereign. Don't touch my little wild cat." Zhou Mo grumbled and hugged Kitty Li tightly. It was as if Kitty Li was his possession. What frustrated Zhou Mo the most was, when he hugged Kitty Li's face was full of unwillingness and she even made threatening gestures. When it reached Yiqing Luo's arms, that adorable little kitten appearance, it even took the initiative to return the hug. The more he looked, the angrier he felt. Women. She already had her own man, yet she still came to snatch his woman. Zhou Mo's vengeful gaze made Yiqing Luo couldn't help but roll her eyes. What was the point of glaring at his own woman if he couldn't coax her? Zhou Mo hugged the struggling Kitty Li tightly. Until Kitty Li stopped struggling. Zhou Mo's expression eased up a little, but the expression he shot at Yiqing Luo was still rather unfriendly. "Speaking of which, where did your man go? I haven't seen him for a day." As soon as he finished speaking, the expression on his face became extremely annoying. And little Qinggu also disappeared. TSK, a single man and a single woman. Yiqing Luo gave him a tight slap on the face and gave a fake smile. Coax your own woman first. Look at your position in Cat's heart, it's not even comparable to me. What a waste of that face of yours. Yiqing Luo. Zhou Mo gritted his teeth as his heart was stabbed. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered with him as she turned around and left. Speaking of which, she really did not know where Mo Xian had gone to. Just as he returned to his room, he suddenly heard a slight noise outside the door. Just as Yiqing Luo was about to lie down on the bed, she raised her brows and looked towards the door. After a while, he heard a light knock on the door. The sound of knocking was very careful. Chapter 39-48. Just by listening to the footsteps and the rhythm of the knocking on the door, Yiqing Luo was able to recognize who was outside the door. When Mo Xian came, he only brought along 2 people from the imperial palace. According to what Mo Xian said, she had specially asked Tang Beiyuan to bring her unromantic fiancé out to relax and cultivate their relationship. Because of this, he knew of their existence. Yiqing Luo didn't specially look for them. The person at the door was silent for a moment, as if hesitating about something. After a long while, he pushed open the door and walked in. The woman was dressed in a light blue outfit that wrapped around her exquisite body. Just one look and Yiqing Luo was able to tell that the lady's exquisite and beautiful face was filled with obvious worry. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but frowned. Didn't Tang Beiyuan come out with her fiancé? This could also be considered a kind of honeymoon. Why, the worry on Tang Beiyuan's face was even worse than before. She didn't feel like a girl in love at all. Could it be that something had happened between her and her fiancé? Yiqing Luo thought that Tang Beiyuan had specially come over to look for her, and with such a cautious and bashful look, she thought that she was here to seek advice on how to get along with each other before being lovers. She had not expected that when Tang Beiyuan walked in front of her, she looked at Yi Qing Luo seriously and spoke carefully. Qing Luo. You, don't listen to young Master Mo's rubbish. The Overlord only has you in his heart. The Overlord and Miss June are absolutely not in that kind of relationship which young Master Mo had mentioned. As soon as he said that, Yi Qing Luo was stunned. What was going on? Why did he suddenly say this to her? Yi Qing Luo coughed fiercely. Cough. Beiyuan, do you think that I will take Zhou Mo's words to heart? Tang Beiyuan shook her head, then nodded. I just wanted to explain on behalf of the Overlord. Yi Qing Luo stretched out her hand and grabbed Tang Beiyuan's hand, pulling her to the bedside to sit down. This matter totally doesn't require any explanation. I totally didn't put what Zhou Mo said to heart. Tang Beiyuan pursed her red lips. I know, but it's my duty. I naturally believe in Xian. Yi Qing Luo leaned against the headboard, and I naturally believe in Xiao Qingwu's character. Speaking of which, Dmo Xian and Jun Qingwu had met before her. If anything had happened to them, it would not have been her turn to appear. Furthermore, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she gave a chilly smile. Even if Xian had 10 guts, he wouldn't dare to mess around behind my back. After a slight pause, she continued, even if he wants to mess around, my little Qingwu doesn't have any thoughts about him. It was not her blind trust in the friend she thought. It was a feeling. She didn't know how to describe this feeling. Oh, Tang Beiyuan replied indifferently. Then, she lowered her head in silence. There was a dejected look on her face. Beiyuan, are you and your fiancé? Yi Qing Luo frowned as she raised her hand and caressed Beiyuan's glabella. To be honest, every time he saw Tang Beiyuan, the worry on her face deepened. The space between his brows was wrinkled. However, before her hand could even touch Tang Beiyuan's eyes widened. Her outstretched palm was covered by a broad and thick palm. Suddenly, his body felt light. Her whole body fell into a broad and warm embrace. The elegant sandalwood fragrance filled her inner heart. A man's mellow voice floated down from above her head. When I wasn't around, Lil Luo seemed to be bad-mouthing me. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.